We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. World leaders condemn Israeli airstrike on aid workers, calls for a transparent investigation. Israel admits convoy hit unintentionally, promises independent investigation. US President Joe Biden speaks to Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping on phone, talks about Taiwan, AI and tech issues. In Turkey, at least 29 people killed during daytime renovation work at a nightclub in Istanbul. Okay, the news in detail now. Leaders worldwide condemned the deaths of 7 aid workers in an Israeli airstrike in Gaza. British, Australian, Polish, a US-Canadian dual citizen and Palestinian nationals were killed when their convoy was attacked on Monday night. The World Central Kitchen had immediately paused its operations in the region. Also, the White House said it was outraged by an Israeli airstrike in Gaza that killed 7 people working for World Central Kitchen. U.S. National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communications John Kirby said that President Joe Biden called the charity aid group's founder to share his condolences.
We were outraged to learn of an IDF strike that killed a number of civilian humanitarian workers yesterday from the World Central Kitchen, which has been relentless in working to get food to those who are hungry in Gaza and, quite frankly, around the world. We send our deepest condolences to their families and loved ones. We expect a broader investigation to be conducted and to be done so in a swift and comprehensive manner. We hope that those findings will be made public and that there is appropriate accountability held.
Also, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Wednesday his country was outraged by the completely unacceptable death of an Australian aid worker in Gaza from an Israeli airstrike. Albanese said he spoke with his Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu and conveyed Australia's anger and concern at the death of aid worker Zomi Francom.
I spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning, with a phone call that was organised overnight. I expressed Australia's anger and concern at the death of Zomi Francom. This is completely unacceptable. The Israeli government has accepted responsibility for this, and Prime Minister Netanyahu conveyed his condolences to the family of Zomi Francom and to Australia as a result of this tragedy.
Meanwhile, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that Israeli strikes on World Central Kitchen aid workers was devastating. Speaking at a session in United Nations General Assembly, the UN chief said that the attacks on aid workers in Gaza was unconscionable.
The devastating Israeli airstrikes that killed World Central Kitchen personnel yesterday bring the number of aid workers killed in this conflict to 196, including more than 175 members of our own UN staff. This is unconscionable, but it is an inevitable result of the way the war is being conducted. It demonstrates yet again the urgent need for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire, the unconditional release of all hostages, and the expansion of humanitarian aid into Gaza, as the Security Council demanded in its resolution last week. The resolution must be implemented without delay.
Also, United Nations spokesperson Stephen Dujarric said that the killing of 7 WCK8 workers in Gaza is the inevitable result of the conflict. He said the UN yet again calls for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in the 6-month-long conflict between Israel and Hamas.
The message is let humanitarian workers do their job, right? They need to be able to do it in safety. We've seen the statements come out of Israel saying that there's an investigation going on and will be made public. We very much look forward to that. But we also remember that a number of our colleagues have also been killed in strikes on UNRWA premises, on locations that were deconflicted. So there was UNRWA, UNDP, IOM, World Food Program. They were also in places that were clearly deconflicted.
An Israeli chief of staff, Herzi Halevi, apologized on Wednesday for the unintentional harm to the members of the World Central Kitchen in Gaza. He said an independent body will carry out a thorough investigation. He added that the findings of the investigation will be shared with the World Central Kitchen and other relevant international organizations.
This incident was a grave mistake. Israel is at a war with Hamas, not with the people of Gaza. We are sorry for the unintentional harm to the members of WCK. We share in the grief of their families as well as the entire World Central Kitchen organization from the bottom of our hearts. An independent body will investigate the incident thoroughly. We will complete it in the next coming days. We will learn from the conclusions and implement them immediately. We will share in full transparency the findings of the investigation with the World Central Kitchen and other international relevant organizations. We see great importance in the continued delivery of humanitarian aid, and we will keep working to facilitate this vital effort.
Well, U.S. President Joe Biden and China's President Xi Jinping had their first conversation since November. Both the leaders spoke about Taiwan, AI, and regular communication. They also reportedly engaged in tough issues as a way to manage their often rocky relationship. Nick Harper reports for more from Washington.
Well, the White House says it was a candid and constructive discussion lasting about an hour and 45 minutes, and it was an opportunity to build on some of the issues the two leaders discussed when they last spoke back in November at a face-to-face meeting in California. Things like collaboration on climate change, counter-narcotics cooperation, how to counter the spread of fentanyl, and ongoing military-to-military communication. But the White House also made it clear that President Joe Biden raised a number of major concerns that the US has with Beijing. In particular, we're told that Biden pushed Washington's concern about any attempts by Beijing to bring Taiwan under its influence and control. Also, concerns about Chinese military build-up in the South China Sea and perceived aggression towards US allies like the Philippines. And Washington's worries about China's support of Russia in its war against Ukraine. This was a chance to try and diffuse tensions between the two countries that have been rocky for many months. Both leaders, we're told, underscored the value that they see in frequent engagements and the attempt to return to regular phone calls. However, there was no agreement out the back of this call for the two men to meet again face to face. While the White House said it was possible, there was no firm commitment from either side or a firm date. However, in the coming weeks there will be a series of high-level engagements, with the US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and Secretary of State Antony Blinken due to travel to Beijing in the coming weeks. In Washington, Nick Harper, reporting for DD India.
A fire at an Istanbul nightclub during renovations on Tuesday has left at least 29 people dead. The nightclub, which was closed for renovations, was on the ground floor of a 16-story residential building in the Besiktas district on the European side of the city. The Istanbul governor's office said a further 8 people were injured, with 7 of those in serious condition. Arrest warrants were issued for 5 people, including the management of the club and the person responsible for the renovations. Well, Donald Trump has posted a $175 million bond tied to his civil fraud case. This comes a week after an appeals court substantially reduced the amount the former president needed to pay. William Venzolo reports for more from New York.
In a series of social media posts, Donald Trump accused the legal system of being corrupt and politicised and railed against the fact he had to pay a bond before the appeals process is concluded. Donald Trump was ordered to pay roughly $450 million after a New York judge found that he'd inflated the value of his assets for favourable terms from lenders. But just last week, an appeals court lowered that figure to $175 million as Trump continues to fight the judge's ruling. In a statement, a lawyer for Trump said he made the payment as promised and looks forward to vindicating his rights on appeal. The bond was secured through Knight's Specialty Insurance Company. The chairman of the group that owns the insurance firm is said to be a Trump supporter. But speaking to US broadcaster ABC News, Don Hankey said it was more of a business decision than personal allegiance. The bond payment has dampened speculation that Trump may have bank assets frozen or assets seized to cover his legal penalties. But if his appeal is rejected, he'll be forced to pay the full figure to the tune of $464 million. The former president's due back in court later this month for the start of a criminal trial here in Manhattan. He's accused of paying hush money to a porn star ahead of the 2016 presidential election. He denies wrongdoing and says all his various legal battles are politically motivated. William Denslow in New York reporting for DD India.
And Portugal's centre-right Prime Minister Luís Montenegro sworn in as Portugal's new Prime Minister in Lisbon's Ajuda Palace. The Democratic Alliance coalition won the March 10th election by a slim margin over the incumbent Socialist Party. With just 80 seats in the 230-seat legislature, the AD will need the support of either the far-right Chega party or the centre-left PS, which secured 78 seats to pass legislation. Chega has demanded a government role or a long-term agreement to support the AD, but Montenegro has repeatedly refused to even negotiate. Montenegro has promised tax reductions for families and companies, higher pensions and wage hikes for police, teachers and doctors.
I
want to be very clear with the Portuguese. This government is here to govern the 4.5 years of legislature. It is here to initiate a structural transformation of the economy and the state. Because this is the only way to create more wealth, to pay better wages, to retain our young people and our talent.
Well, an earthquake with a magnitude of 7.2 hit Taipei, the capital of Taiwan, on Wednesday morning. The Taiwan Central Weather Administration said the epicenter of the quake was in waters of the eastern coastline of Taiwan Island. The quake knocked out power in several parts of the city. The quake was also felt in Shanghai. Meanwhile, Taipei city government said it has not yet received any reports of major damage. The Chinese state media stated it was felt in Fujiao, Xiamen, Guangzhou and Ningde in China's Fujian province.
Whoa. Gosh.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news across the globe. The U.S. opened a second channel for smaller vessels to navigate the port of Baltimore on Tuesday. A team, including the U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the state of Maryland, announced that crews had cleared a channel with a depth of 14 feet. However, most commercial shipping remains blocked. An ecological organization in Kazakhstan said on Tuesday that a large oil spill had been captured by satellite imagery in the northern Caspian Sea. The spill is near Kazakhstan's giant Kashagan oil field. One of the oldest books in existence is heading to the auction. The Cross-by Shoyan Codex from Egypt was written around 250 to 350 AD at a time before the Bible as we know it was assembled. It consists of 104 pages and was written by one scribe over a period of 40 years in one of the very first Christian monasteries in Upper Egypt, founded by Saint Pachomius. Pop icons Beyonce, Cher and Taylor Swift took home to top honors at the iHeartRadio Awards in Los Angeles. Cher was awarded the Icon Award while Beyonce was given the Innovator Award. The show was hosted by rapper Ludacris, who also performed alongside other stars in the lineup such as Justin Timberlake, Green Day and Jelly Roll. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Campaigning heats up for the upcoming general elections, leaders to hold rallies to woo the voters. India's Minister of Health and Family Welfare will chair a meeting with various stakeholder agencies to review preparedness to tackle heat-related illness. And in sports, Lucknow Super Giants registered the second win of IPL 2024 season, beating Royal Challengers Bengaluru by 28 runs. We'll tell you more ahead.
As the cycle of accountability returns, the time has come when the biggest democracy chooses to write another chapter in its glorious history. Development, justice, regionalism, a big political canvas. Everything will be put to test in this mega battle for glory. DD India dissects what makes elections 2024 the battle royale in Indian politics. Data and analysis free from bias to help you understand why India matters. The Great Indian Election on weekdays at 8:30 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, let's now get you to the latest on the world's largest democratic elections in India. Well, ahead of the general election 2024, India's Union Minister and Bharatiya Janata Party leader Amit Shah will hold a public rally in northern city of Muzaffarnagar in Uttar Pradesh today. Later on, Shah will also meet the Lok Sabha core group in Moradabad. Discussions on election strategy and key priorities for the state will likely take the centre stage during the meet. Indian leaders are leaving no stone unturned to campaign for the upcoming elections. Union Defence Minister and BJP leader Rajnath Singh will also hold a public meeting at the northern city of Ghaziabad in Uttar Pradesh today. He will also attend the nomination filing event of party's candidate Atul Garg. BJP President JP Nadda will address two public rallies in Uttarakhand today. Following his campaign, he will meet with the Saint Society in the city of Haridwar on Thursday. Nadda's rally comes a day after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the state. BJP candidate and lower house speaker Om Birla will file his nominations today. He is contesting from northwestern state of Rajasthan's parliamentary constituency Kota Bundi.
We can do no
Congress party leader Rahul Gandhi will file his nomination papers for Wayanad Lok Sabha seat in southern state of Kerala today, seeking re-election. Before filing of his nomination, the Congress leader will hold a roadshow in his constituency. Rashtriya Janata Dal's candidate Bhima Bharti will file her nomination from the high-profile Purnia seat of eastern state of Bihar today, whereas Congress leader Papu Yadav will also file his nomination from this seat on Thursday. Well, moving on, did you know that 9 Indian Prime Ministers have been elected from the state of Uttar Pradesh? Our next report tells you why UP is the country's most politically significant state.
The North Indian state of Uttar Pradesh is the amalgamation of history, religion, culture and politics. It's the birthplace of Lord Ram and Lord Krishna. The former was born in Ayodhya, while the latter was born in Mathura. Though fourth largest in terms of geographical area, covering over 243,000 square kilometers, UP is India's most populous state. It has 80 seats in the Lok Sabha, the lower house of the Indian Parliament, highest among all the states in the country. The people of Uttar Pradesh are voting in all 7 phases of 2024 general elections. The voting dates are April 19th and 26th, May 7th, 13th, 20th, 25th and 1st of June. UP has over 153 million voters, out of which 81.7 million are male and 71.7 million are women, and more than 6,600 voters belong to the third gender. The state also holds the record of sending 9 of the 15 prime ministers India has had since independence, who won their respective Lok Sabha elections from various constituencies in the state. India's incumbent Prime Minister Narendra Modi also got elected to the Lok Sabha from the holy city of Varanasi. The state is currently being governed by the Bharatiya Janata Party and other prominent parties which are also participating in the general elections include regional forces like Samajwadi Party, the Bahujan Samaj Party and the Rashtriya Lok Dal. The temple of Lord Ram, which was recently inaugurated in the state at the temple city of Ayodhya, features prominently in the 2024 election campaigns. During the 2019 polls, constructing the temple was one of BJP's key poll promises. In the last general elections, of the 80 seats that went to polls, BJP won 62, while the BSP and SP contested in an alliance that bagged 10 and 5 seats respectively. BJP's coalition partner Apna Dal Sonilal got 2 seats and the Congress backed 1. It is often said that a party's performance in the Lok Sabha polls in Uttar Pradesh also determines its overall fortunes in the general elections, making UP India's most politically significant state. Election Desk, DD India.
Well, conducting polls in India, which has over 968 million voters, is no mean feat. Our next report tells you more about the logistics behind the world's largest election.
$968 million. That's the number of registered voters in India. It is more than the combined population of the United States and the European Union. In 2024, nearly 50 countries including the US and Mexico are going to polls. More than 2 billion voters will cast their ballots and nearly half of them will be in India alone. The more you delve into numbers, you realize that conducting general elections in India is a mammoth exercise. India is the world's 7th largest country by land area, comprising 28 states and 8 union territories. The Election Commission will conduct the 2024 general elections to elect 543 lower house members in 7 phases from April 19th to June 1st. The results will be out on June 4th. Over 15 million election officials will be deployed across 1 million polling stations throughout the country. Over 5.5 million electronic voting machines will be used for the exercise. Of the total 968 million voters, 497 million are male, 471 million are female, while about 48,000 belong to the third gender. Also, nearly 18 million voters will exercise their franchise for the first time ever. Let's also take a look at the key statistics of the last Indian general elections that were held in 2019. There were over 900 million eligible voters, out of which 600 million people cast their ballots. The final turnout stood at over 67%, the highest ever for any general elections to date. Nearly 4 million electronic voting machines were deployed across 1 million polling stations, and over 8,000 candidates and 670 parties were in the fray. That's not all. The polls, which cost 600 billion rupees, are the world's second most expensive elections after the 2020 US presidential election.
And India's Minister of Health and Family Welfare, Mansukh Mandavia, will chair a meeting with various stakeholder agencies on Wednesday to review preparedness to tackle heat-related illness due to heat waves. The meeting will be attended by several officials from Niti Aayog, Indian Council of Medical Research, All India Institute of Medical Sciences for the action plan for upcoming summer season. India's Meteorological Department said that most parts of the country are likely to witness above normal maximum temperatures during April to June, with 10 to 20 days of heat waves expected in different parts of the country. And Lucknow Super Giants on Tuesday registered their second win of the IPL 2024 season, beating Royal Challengers Bangalore by 28 runs at the Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bangalore. LSG put up a total of 181 for 5 before RCB. Quinton de Nox 81 and Nicholas Puran's unbeaten 40 run before youngsters Mayank Yadav's 3-wicket haul helped bundle RCB out for 153 in 19.4 overs. Mayank Yadav left one and all amazed, bowling the fastest delivery of the season. Following Tuesday's victory, LSD ascended to 4th position in the standings. Meanwhile, Bengaluru's defeat saw them plummet down to 9th position. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.